The Galactic Empire was old, powerful, and proud. For 10,000 years it had stretched across the stars like a shadow. Worlds had fallen under its banner, some willingly, most by force. Armies of countless alien species had been crushed and broken. The Empire always won. That was the law of the galaxy. When the first reports of humans came, the High Admirals barely paid attention. Scouts said the new species lived on a small blue planet called Earth, near the edge of the spiral arm. Their colonies were tiny, their fleets small. Their weapons were crude compared to Imperial standards. The admirals smiled with arrogance. Another primitive race to conquer, another star added to the Emperor's map. Fleet Commander Valen was chosen to lead the first attack. His orders were simple: subjugate the human colony of Carthos III. It was a mining world with little value, but it would serve as a message to humanity. The Empire always started wars this way. Strike hard, strike fast, and make the enemy kneel. Valen's fleet arrived in system with 50 warships. The ships were sleek, black as night, and armed with plasma cannons capable of tearing moons apart. Imperial soldiers, bred for war and obedience, stood ready in their armored transports. Victory was certain before the battle even began, but Valen soon discovered that humans were not like other species. The humans on Carthos III received only a short warning before the Imperial fleet dropped out of hyperspace. The miners and settlers should have panicked, but instead they scrambled into action. Civilian ships were loaded with families and evacuated, while the local militia, barely a few thousand with outdated weapons, prepared to hold the line. Among them was Captain Elias Ward, a former Earth Navy officer who had retired to the colony. When the alarms rang, he put on his old uniform and took command. He knew their chances were almost nothing, but he also knew something about humans. Surrender was not in their nature. "Listen," he told his militia, gathered in the bunker that served as their command post. "They think we're weak. They think we'll kneel, but we won't give them that satisfaction. We fight for every street, every home, every child. If we fall, we make them pay for every inch of ground." The militia roared in agreement. The first Imperial landing came with terrifying power. Dropships roared through the sky like burning meteors, disgorging thousands of armored soldiers. Plasma fire scorched the ground. Alien war cries filled the air. Normally, resistance would crumble. Normally, a colony like this would collapse in a day. But the humans did not collapse. They used the mines and tunnels they had dug for years as hidden passages. Snipers hid in the cliffs. Workers turned industrial lasers into makeshift weapons. Every street corner became an ambush site. Every ruined building a fortress. An Imperial officer reported in disbelief. "They fight without coordination, yet with unity. Every strike feels random, yet it traps us. This is not war, it is madness. It was not madness. It was human determination." For 3 days the battle raged. The Empire soldiers pressed forward with discipline and overwhelming firepower. Yet every time they thought the humans had broken, new fighters emerged. Men, women, even teenagers, anyone who could hold a weapon, joined the defense. The Empire destroyed the colony's main defenses on the first day, but that only made the fighting more fierce. Humans fought from the shadows, striking supply lines, sabotaging tanks, planting explosives in tunnels. Imperial soldiers began to whisper among themselves, "These creatures are fragile, but they do not stop. They should fear us. Why do they not fear us?" On the fourth night, Valen himself stood on the bridge of his flagship, furious. Carthos III was supposed to fall in hours, not days. His fleet had reduced cities to rubble, yet the resistance grew stronger. "Why do they fight like this?" Valen demanded of his aides. "They cannot win." But no aide had an answer. Captain Elias Ward knew the colony could not hold forever. Still, he pushed his people harder. He had seen Imperial soldiers up close now. They were strong, well-trained, and armed with technology humans could barely dream of. Yet they hesitated in strange ways. They were not used to enemies who fought dirty, who set traps, who struck in small bands and vanished. Ward smiled grimly. Humans had a gift. They adapted. On the 6th day, Ward's militia struck the Imperials with a daring raid. Using stolen explosives, they collapsed an entire canyon onto an enemy convoy. Over 300 Imperial soldiers were buried alive. The victory was small compared to the fleet's size, but the effect was enormous. For the first time in centuries, the Empire had suffered humiliation. The Galactic Empire's history was full of victories, but its history was also full of predictability. Every war followed the same pattern. The enemy fought bravely, then broke, then surrendered. But humans were rewriting that pattern. Word of Carthos III spread quickly across nearby Imperial outposts. Soldiers muttered about humans in the barracks. Officers grew uneasy. Even alien slaves within the Empire heard whispers. A new species was standing against the conquerors. One Imperial commander sent a coded message to his superior. These humans fight as if retreat is worse than death. If this is their nature, I fear what will happen if they unite as a people. On the 7th day, the Empire brought in heavy artillery. Giant plasma cannons leveled what was left of Carthos III's capital. Fires burned across the horizon. Still, the humans fought. A veteran Imperial soldier cornered one young human fighter in the ruins. The boy could not have been more than 16. His weapon was broken. The soldier raised his rifle to finish him, but the boy did not cower. He spat blood, stared at the armored giant, and said with defiance, "You'll never break us. Others will come. You'll see." The soldier hesitated. For a moment, centuries of Imperial pride cracked. He saw in the boy's eyes something he had never seen before, a species that would never kneel. The soldier pulled the trigger anyway. But that hesitation lingered. By the 10th day, Carthos III was lost. Fires consumed the colony, the militia was shattered, and Elias Ward lay wounded in the rubble. The Imperials declared victory, but it was a strange victory. They had expected fear, submission, and obedience. Instead, they left with scars, lost soldiers, and shaken confidence. Valen's fleet moved on, ready to strike Earth itself. Yet even Valen knew something had changed. For the first time in his long career, he felt a cold weight in his chest. The humans had not fought like others. They had fought like predators cornered. They had fought as if the universe itself was theirs to claim. And deep inside, Valen wondered, what if this was only the beginning? In the ruins of Carthos III, survivors gathered among the smoke, broken, grieving, but alive. Captain Elias Ward, barely standing, looked at them with pride. "They think they've won," he whispered, "but they've only woken us up. The Empire has no idea what's coming." Far above, in the darkness of space, the stars seemed to listen. The Galactic Empire did not know fear. For thousands of years, it had conquered species across the galaxy without challenge. Every enemy it faced was crushed beneath its fleets and soldiers. Surrender always came quickly, because resistance against the Empire was useless. That was the belief that kept the galaxy under the Emperor's rule. But whispers had begun. Whispers about humans. The battle at Carthos III had been declared a victory by the Empire, but it was a victory that felt hollow. Too many soldiers had died, too many ships damaged, and too many officers questioned why such a weak colony had held out for so long. Still, the high admirals in the Imperial capital brushed it off. "Losses are expected," they said in their Grand Council chambers. "The humans are disorganized. Their technology is weak. They cannot fight us for long." The admirals laughed at reports of human stubbornness. To them, it was only the last cries of a dying species. They told themselves that humans could not possibly stand against the might of the Empire. But not all believed this lie. Fleet Commander Valen, who had led the attack on Carthos III, returned to the capital with a heavy heart. He was praised for victory, yet inside he knew something was wrong. The humans had fought like no other species he had seen. During a private meeting, one of his junior officers spoke quietly. "Commander, permission to speak freely?" Valen nodded. "They are dangerous," the officer said. "They learn too fast. Every tactic we used, they found a way to counter it. Every time we advanced, they made us pay for it. If a colony fights like that, what will their homeworld do?" Valen dismissed the officer with silence, but the words stayed in his mind. Meanwhile, Earth was not silent. The news of Carthos III reached every human colony. At first, there was grief for the dead, but grief quickly turned into anger. Humanity had been attacked without cause, and humanity would not forgive. On Earth, leaders from every nation gathered. Old rivalries, old mistrusts, things that had divided them for centuries suddenly seemed small. For the first time in history, humanity united under one cause: survival. General Marcus Hale, a veteran soldier, spoke before the newly formed United Earth Council. "The Empire believes we are weak. They believe we will kneel. But they are wrong. We will fight them with everything we have." We will learn, we will adapt, and we will make them regret ever setting foot on human soil. Factories across Earth roared to life. Shipyards worked day and night. Soldiers were trained. Engineers pushed technology forward, and scientists studied captured Imperial equipment. Humanity had always been fast learners, and now they had a reason to push harder than ever before. In orbit above Earth, Admiral Sophia Cade watched as new warships left the docks. They were smaller than Imperial cruisers, less advanced but built with creativity. Humans armed them with railguns, missiles, and stealth systems the Empire had never seen. "These ships won't win by strength," Cade told her officers. "They'll win by surprise. We will not fight the Empire their way, we will fight them our way." The officers nodded. Humanity had no choice but to fight smarter. Back in the Empire, some alien advisors began to question their masters. The Empire ruled over hundreds of species, most broken and obedient. Yet in the dark corners of the galaxy, old rebellions still whispered of freedom. When news of the humans spread, those whispers grew louder. "If the humans can resist," said one alien slave in secret, "maybe we can too." Imperial governors dismissed the talk, but the idea had already begun to spread like fire. The Empire launched its next attack against another human colony, New Horizon, a farming world. Phelan sent 20 warships, believing it would be enough. When the fleet arrived, they found the skies empty. No human fleet waited for them. Valen expected an easy victory, but when his ships entered orbit, the trap was sprung. From the shadow of the moon, human warships appeared, smaller, faster, and hidden by stealth coatings. Missiles streaked out like angry comets. Railguns fired slugs that pierced Imperial shields. The Empire's warships staggered as explosions ripped through their hulls. Valen roared for his ships to return fire, and they did. Plasma blasts tore apart human vessels, but the damage had already been done. Half his fleet was crippled in minutes. The humans fought like wolves, striking fast, then vanishing into darkness, only to strike again. They did not fight for territory. They fought to bleed the Empire. For the first time in his life, Valen ordered a retreat. The loss at New Horizon sent shockwaves through the Empire. Never in its long history had such a small enemy force caused such damage. The admirals raged and blamed Valen, but in their private chambers they worried. "These humans are reckless," one said. "They use tactics without discipline," another argued. "They are nothing more than savages," but deep down all of them felt the same unease. Savages or not, the humans had done what no other species had ever done, forced the Empire to retreat. On Earth, the news of victory at New Horizons spread like wildfire. Crowds filled the streets, waving flags, cheering the names of the fallen, honoring the heroes. Captain Elias Ward, who had survived Carthos III and returned to Earth with scars, stood before the cheering people. He raised his fist and shouted, "They thought we would bow. Instead, we showed them what it means to be human." The crowd roared back, "Never bow, never break." Ward knew the war was far from over, but he also knew something important. The galaxy was watching. Far away, in the depths of space, an alien traitor passed messages between worlds. He had seen the Empire crush many species, and he had seen rebellions die in silence, but when he heard of humans, he carried the story wherever he went. "They fight differently," he told frightened listeners in hidden markets. "They do not fear death. They fight even when all is lost. If they can bleed the Empire, maybe there is hope for us all." The legend of humanity began to spread. In the Imperial Palace, the Emperor himself finally took notice. He sat on a throne of black stone, his eyes cold as space. His advisors knelt before him and reported the battles. "Your Majesty," one said carefully, "the humans have cost us more than expected. Some suggest caution." The Emperor's voice was like iron. "Caution is weakness. The Empire has never bowed to any race, and it will not bow to these humans. Double the fleets, crush them before their defiance spreads." The advisors bowed, but when they left the chamber, some of them whispered quietly, "What if the humans cannot be crushed?" Fleet Commander Valen returned to his quarters after the audience, weary. He had fought for the Empire his entire life, but now he felt doubt. He remembered the boy on Carthos III who had stared at death without fear. He remembered the human ambush at New Horizon, so clever it had nearly destroyed him. For the first time, he asked himself a forbidden question. What if the Empire cannot win? The galaxy was vast, filled with countless species, empires, and conflicts. Yet even in its endless wars, one event began to stand out. Humans, alien observers, spies, and traitors who had watched from the edges of the empire, now whispered of a species unlike any other. Humans did not act like the conquered or the conquerors they had known. They did not cower before power, and they did not bow to technology. They adapted, learned, and struck back with surprising speed. On the edge of Imperial space, a group of alien spies arrived near the human colonies. They were small, agile, and almost invisible, perfect for gathering information without being seen. Their mission was simple: observe the humans, understand them, and report back. But what they found confused them. The first colony they visited was Terra Nova, a small world that had become a staging ground for human defenses. From orbit, the colony looked fragile. Cities were small, ships limited, and defenses seemed minimal. Yet on the surface, the humans moved with purpose. Civilians carried weapons and supplies. Soldiers drilled. Engineers repaired damaged ships, and children practiced emergency drills. Everyone had a role. Everyone contributed. One alien observer, a thin, gray-skinned being named Zalthor, whispered to his companion, "They have order, but it is not like ours. It is chaotic yet effective. How can such disorganization produce such strength?" His companion, a shorter creature with shimmering scales, shook its head. "I have studied war for centuries. I have seen rebellions crushed in hours. Yet these humans, they survive against all odds. It is unnatural." Zalthor decided to observe a skirmish. A small group of Imperial ships approached the colony expecting an easy strike. They did not expect humans to ambush them before even leaving orbit. From hidden positions, human fighters launched missiles, guided with uncanny precision. They dodged laser fire with rapid maneuvers, using asteroid belts and planetary shadows for cover. Within minutes, several Imperial vessels were crippled, forced to retreat. The aliens watched in shock. "They learn instantly," Zalthor muttered. "Every move we predicted, they have already countered." "This is not luck," his companion added. "I have never seen a species that fights without fear and without surrender. They think differently." The observers decided to risk landing on the planet. They disguised themselves as traitors, mingling with the humans. They expected to find fear, weakness, or panic, but instead found something entirely different: confidence. Humans greeted them cautiously but politely. Soldiers shared rations. Engineers explained their work. Children played among rubble without fear. Everywhere the aliens looked, they saw life continuing despite war. One human, a young officer named Lieutenant Mara Chen, noticed the aliens' unusual behavior. She studied them for a moment and said softly to a comrade, "They're not Imperial. Probably scouts or traitors. Either way, they're watching. Let them see what humans can do." The aliens were astonished. Humans were not only surviving, they seemed proud of their resilience. That evening, Zalthor recorded his report in secret. Humans do not fear death. They do not obey unless it serves a purpose. They fight unpredictably and learn faster than any other species we have studied. If the Empire underestimates them, it will regret it. His companion added a chilling note. They are not like the others. If they unite, the galaxy itself may change. We must warn others. The two observers returned to their ship, but their minds could not rest. The humans were not just a nuisance, they were a revelation. Meanwhile, Earth's leaders prepared for the next Imperial strike. They studied the Empire's tactics carefully, learning from every skirmish. Admiral Sophia Cade oversaw simulations where humans played both sides, predicting the enemy's moves. "We cannot match them ship for ship," Cade told her officers. "But we can match them in thought. They fight with rules. We fight without rules. They predict patterns. We break them. They underestimate us. We exploit it." Her officers nodded. Humans had a strange advantage: instinct combined with intelligence. They could adapt faster than any machine, any alien doctrine, any plan. Even Fleet Commander Valen, now back in Imperial space, felt the effect. Reports came daily of human ingenuity. Entire Imperial units had been destroyed by simple but clever traps. Pilots wrote frantic messages about human ambushes. Engineers warned that humans were learning Imperial weapons faster than the Empire could adjust. Valen began to understand a dangerous truth. Humans were unpredictable. The alien observers returned to watch another human colony, Lyra 7. It was a heavily industrialized world, its surface scarred by mining and factories. The Empire believed the colony would crumble easily, yet humans had fortified it with ingenuity. They used abandoned industrial machinery as weapons. Conveyor belts became barricades. Factories produced drones armed with simple but deadly tools. Humans had no superweapons, no massive fleets, yet they created a defense that was both deadly and impossible to predict. When Imperial ships attacked, they faced a wall of traps. Mines were hidden in space lanes. Drones swarmed, distracting sensors. Human pilots darted in and out, destroying key targets before vanishing. Zalthor whispered in disbelief. They fight like they do not fear death, yet they plan everything. They adapt to every attack. They are unstoppable. The observers noticed a pattern. Humans did not follow rules of engagement like other species. They used deception, misdirection, and improvisation. They valued creativity over discipline, instinct over hierarchy, and courage over protocol. Yet they also had unity. Despite differences in language, culture, or appearance, humans fought as one. No Imperial officer had ever faced such cohesion in a species that was supposed to be primitive. The aliens began to debate quietly. If the Empire continues this war, they will not win, one said. These humans are not conquerable, they are evolution in motion, Zalthor nodded. And if the humans unite with other species, the galaxy itself could rise against the Empire. Back on Earth, Captain Elias Ward received reports of alien observers. At first he thought it a coincidence, but the evidence became clear. Species outside the Empire were watching humanity closely. Ward smiled grimly. Humans had not only survived the first strikes, they had drawn attention across the stars. Some aliens were curious, others wary, but all noticed one thing: humans were not weak. Humans were not simple. Humans were dangerous. They thought we were just a frontier species, Ward said. Now they are watching, learning, and realizing. We are something else entirely. Meanwhile, in the shadows of the Empire, reports of human resilience spread. Officers whispered in private chambers, soldiers passed rumors in barracks, and even alien slaves talked quietly of a species that would not bow. Valen read the reports with growing unease. Each encounter seemed to contradict everything he had known about war. Humans were clever, unpredictable, and relentless. They survived attacks that would have destroyed entire civilizations. They adapted faster than machines, and their morale never faltered. For the first time, he feared that the humans might not only survive, they might win. The alien observers decided to send a warning to their networks across the galaxy. Hidden transmissions spoke of a species that did not fear death, did not follow predictable patterns, and could outthink the Empire at every turn. One message read simply, "Humans are not like the others. They fight with heart, with mind, and with will. If you face them, do not underestimate them. They do not surrender. They do not stop. They do not run." The warning spread quietly, reaching alien scientists, strategists, and leaders. Some dismissed it as exaggeration, but many others listened, understanding that the humans were unlike any enemy they had ever faced. On Earth, Admiral Cade studied the transmissions from Imperial space. She smiled. The Empire was beginning to panic, and that panic was useful. Humans had always been underestimated, and now their enemies were learning that the hard way. She looked at the stars and said softly, "They think they know war. They think they understand the galaxy. They do not, and they never will, because we are human, and we do not give up." As the alien observers left human space, Zalthor looked back at the blue planet. He had been trained to see patterns, to predict outcomes, to understand strategy. Yet with humans all his training failed. They are awe-inspiring, he whispered, and terrifying. If the Empire continues, it will not be ready. And if the humans ever fight together, the galaxy will never be the same. His companion remained silent, knowing the truth in the words. The humans had awakened something in the galaxy, a force that could not be tamed, a species that could not be conquered, and a courage that could not be broken. Far above, in the dark void of space, the stars seemed to watch and wait. Humanity had survived the first clashes. Humanity had won small victories, learned from defeat, and caught the attention of every species who had eyes to see. The Galactic Empire had grown desperate. Each battle with humans was more costly than the last. Imperial fleets that had crushed entire species now staggered at the sheer unpredictability of human tactics. Commanders argued constantly in the halls of the Emperor's palace. blaming one another for failures that no single officer could prevent. Fleet Commander Valen sat in his private quarters aboard the flagship Dread Sovereign, staring at the map of human space. Planets that should have fallen with little effort remained defiant. Supply lines were disrupted constantly. Human ships struck quickly, vanished into asteroid fields, and returned to attack in places the Empire had assumed safe. "This is madness," Valen muttered. "They are not just resisting, they are winning small victories everywhere." His aide, a young officer named Rilkar, frowned. "Sir, they may be small victories, but the humans are learning faster than we are. Every move we make, they find a counter. If we continue at this pace, they may begin to dictate the war." Valen rubbed his temples. "They are only humans," he said quietly. "They cannot possibly match the Empire." Can they? Deep down, he already knew the answer. On Earth, Admiral Sophia Cade studied Imperial movements with cold precision. Humanity had survived Carthos III New Horizon and other skirmishes, but now the Empire was escalating. Entire sectors were mobilized to crush the human colonies. Yet Cade saw opportunity in every threat. "They are strong," she said to her officers. "But strength alone does not win. We know their weaknesses, their arrogance, their reliance on overwhelming firepower. They have never faced a species willing to adapt so quickly." She pointed to the map of Imperial positions. "We cannot fight them conventionally, but we can fight smart. Hit supply lines, cripple command ships, and force them to respond. Let them come to us, then strike where they least expect it." Her officers nodded, understanding the plan. Humans were no longer waiting for the Empire to attack. They were preparing to fight on their terms. In orbit above the human colony of Nova Astra, Captain Elias Ward prepared his fleet for a daring maneuver. For months, humans had studied Imperial patrols, predicting their response to attacks. Now they would take the fight into the enemy's territory. Ward addressed his crew, his voice steady but fierce. "The Empire thinks it can dictate this war. They are wrong. We have survived every strike and we have learned every weakness. Today we take the fight to them. We show the galaxy that humans do not wait for others to act." "Humans act," the crew cheered. Ships launched, cutting through the blackness of space with silent determination. Every pilot, every soldier, every engineer knew the stakes. They were not just defending Earth, they were reshaping the balance of power in the galaxy. Meanwhile, the Empire gathered its largest fleet yet near the Orion sector. Over 200 warships bristled with plasma cannons, missile batteries, and advanced sensors. They expected human forces to be small and scattered. Victory was assumed, but humans were not scattered. They had prepared ambush points along the edge of the Orion sector. Smaller, faster ships darted through asteroid fields, hiding in shadows while drones patrolled invisible paths. Humans had transformed every terrain into an advantage. When the Imperial fleet entered the sector, the attack began. Explosions ripped through the void as human ships struck key vessels. Imperial shields flared, but it was too late for many. Ships were crippled, convoys destroyed, and panic began to ripple through the ranks. Valen barked orders, trying to regroup. "Concentrate fire on the human lead ships. Target their command vessels." But the humans had anticipated it. False lead ships decoyed Imperial fire, while the real fleet struck from unexpected angles. Drones disabled weapon systems and stealth ships launched missiles that pierced armor like knives. For the first time in his career, Valen realized that conventional tactics could not win this war. On Earth, Admiral Cade monitored the battle from the command center. She smiled as the Empire faltered. Human ingenuity had turned the Empire's own strength against them. "They expected fear," she said quietly. "They expected chaos. They will find neither. Every move they make, we are ready for it. Every attack they launch, we have prepared a counter. This is our war now." Captain Ward's fleet moved deeper into Imperial space. The humans were not reckless, they were calculating, precise, and adaptable. They hit supply stations, crippled communication arrays, and forced Imperial fleets to chase them through dangerous sectors. Every engagement cost the Empire ships, soldiers, and morale. Back in the Imperial Palace, the Emperor grew impatient. He had never tolerated failure, and he would not tolerate it now. He ordered the deployment of planet-killer weapons to strike human colonies directly. The admirals argued, warning that the humans might survive, but the Emperor's mind was made. "Crush them," he commanded. "Leave nothing." Yet even as the orders were given, whispers of doubt spread among the officers. The humans had survived direct attacks before. What if these weapons were not enough? What if humanity had learned from the first strikes and had prepared countermeasures? As the Empire prepared its ultimate strikes, humans acted boldly. Ward led a strike team to an Imperial forward command station. Using stolen plans and clever tactics, they bypassed defenses, sabotaged weapon systems, and sent the station into chaos. Entire fleets lost coordination. Imperial soldiers panicked. A young human fighter, barely 20, sent a message back to Earth. "Sir, the station is ours. The Empire doesn't know what hit them." Ward replied simply, "Good work. Keep pushing. Show them humans do not retreat." The human crews laughed, cheered, and continued their strikes. Every victory fueled morale. Every engagement honed their tactics. They were not just surviving, they were dominating through unpredictability. The Empire grew frantic. Officers were replaced daily, commanders executed for failure, and fleets pushed harder into human space. Yet the humans adapted at every turn. They learned Imperial signals, countered tactics, and used deception to keep the enemy guessing. Every engagement cost the Empire more than it gained. Fleet Commander Valen realized the truth. Humanity was not just clever, they were relentless. Every attack, every retreat, every improvisation had a purpose. Humans did not fear death. They did not surrender. They learned faster than the Empire could destroy. He spoke privately to Realcar. "They are not like any enemy we have ever faced. If this continues, the Empire will not survive, and yet we cannot stop. We have orders. We must continue." Realcar looked at him with worry. "Sir, what if the humans reach the Imperial capital? What if they attack the heart of the Empire?" Valen said nothing. He did not know the answer. On Earth, Admiral Cade prepared for the possibility of Imperial retaliation. Human scientists had developed new weapons and shields to counter planet killers. Engineers had built ships capable of extraordinary maneuvers. Soldiers were trained to fight not only with weapons, but with strategy, creativity, and courage. Humans had turned survival into an art. They were no longer waiting. They were shaping the battlefield. And in every action they sent a clear message. Humanity would not be crushed, and humanity would not back down. The war escalated further. Humans struck deep into enemy space, sabotaging logistics and command stations. Imperial officers began to fear not the humans' numbers, but their unpredictability. Stories spread of small human crews crippling entire fleets, using nothing more than ingenuity and courage. In private quarters, Imperial scientists warned that the humans were learning faster than the Empire could destroy. They could predict every strike, adapt every attack, and exploit every weakness. Valen feared they were no longer just fighting humans. They were fighting the concept of unpredictability itself. As the humans prepared to strike an important Imperial supply hub, Captain Ward addressed his crews. "Today we show the galaxy that humans do not bow. We do not surrender. We fight with everything we have, because if we do not, no one will." The crews cheered. Ships launched into the void, disappearing into asteroid fields, nebulae, and hidden routes. The humans struck the supply hub with precision, crippling Imperial coordination. Fleets were delayed, resources lost, and morale shattered. Even alien spies watching from a distance whispered in awe. "These humans, they are unlike anything we have ever seen. They adapt, they survive, they fight, and they do not stop. If the Empire does not run, it will fall." The crisis had reached its peak. The Empire, once untouchable, was struggling to maintain control. Humans had turned defense into offense, courage into strategy, and survival into victory. Every battle, every strike, every risk taken by humans sent a clear warning. The galaxy would never be the same. And far above, in the Emperor's throne room, the ruler stared into the void. His empire was vast, but against humans, even vastness seemed fragile. Yet he refused to consider retreat. The galaxy held its breath. Humanity was no longer just surviving. Humanity was winning, one unpredictable strike at a time. The Galactic Empire had never known defeat, not truly. Its fleets were vast, its soldiers trained, its weapons capable of tearing worlds apart. For 10,000 years, no species had resisted its might and lived. No species had forced the Empire to reconsider, to tremble. But humans were different. After months of relentless strikes, bold maneuvers, and unpredictable tactics, humanity had forced the Empire into chaos. Fleets staggered, supply lines collapsed, and Imperial officers whispered fears they had never dared to speak. The humans had not merely defended, they had conquered uncertainty itself. Fleet Commander Valen stood on the bridge of the Dread Sovereign, staring at the battle reports. Entire sectors were in flames. Supply convoys lay in ruin. Human forces were moving boldly toward the Imperial capital system itself. For the first time, he felt fear. They are not just strong, Valen said quietly to Rilkar. They are unstoppable. If they reach the capital, the Empire may crumble, and yet, we cannot retreat, Rilkar nodded, pale under his armor. We may not survive this, Commander. Valen did not answer. Words could not describe what he felt. On Earth, Admiral Sophia Cade prepared for the final strike. Humanity had not only defended its colonies, they had learned the ways of the Empire and turned them against their oppressors. Shipyards worked around the clock. Soldiers drilled day and night. Engineers studied Imperial technology and improved it faster than the enemy could adapt. Captain Elias Ward addressed the United Earth Council. This is our moment. The Empire believes itself untouchable. They are wrong. We have survived. We have adapted. We have learned their weaknesses. Now we strike at the heart of the Empire itself. The galaxy will see what humans can do. The Council erupted in cheers. Every citizen, soldier, and crew member knew the stakes. Humanity was not just fighting for survival. It was fighting for its place among the stars. Human fleets moved into the Imperial capital system with precision. Imperial ships rushed to defend their home, expecting a desperate attack from humans. They underestimated the strategy entirely. Humans did not charge blindly. They struck with calculation, exploiting the arrogance and rigidity of the Empire. Small human squadrons disabled communication arrays, while faster strike ships destroyed key command centers. Imperial warships, once symbols of unbreakable power, were shattered in ways no officer could have predicted. The humans fought with a combination of courage, intelligence, and unpredictability the Empire had never seen. Alien observers watched in awe. One whispered to another, "If they can do this, if they unite, no empire will ever survive them." Inside the Imperial Palace, the Emperor received reports of the chaos unfolding in his own system. For the first time, he felt the weight of uncertainty. The humans were not just fighting, they were dismantling his control piece by piece. "Send reinforcements," the Emperor ordered. "Crush them before they reach the capital." But it was too late. Human sabotage had already crippled the Imperial fleet's organization. Communications failed. Orders were delayed. Fear spread among officers who had never feared anything. Fleet Commander Valen watched the messages with disbelief. The humans had anticipated every move, turned their own strategy against them, and forced the Empire into retreat without firing a single full salvo. "They are not like any enemy we have faced," Valen muttered. "They cannot be stopped, and yet they are still human." On the surface of the Imperial capital, humans did not march blindly. Engineers had prepared devices to disable planet-killer weapons, sabotage key infrastructure, and protect civilians from collateral damage. Soldiers moved carefully but boldly, striking quickly, disappearing, and returning to attack from unexpected angles. Captain Ward led the assault personally. He coordinated attacks from orbit, guided strike teams, and inspired every soldier around him. Humanity's strength was not just in firepower, it was in unity, courage, and creativity. Every human fought knowing they were not just defending themselves, they were challenging the galaxy's oldest tyranny. As Imperial forces fell back, alien civilians inside the capital watched in disbelief. They had been slaves of the Empire for centuries. Now, humans had come, not to conquer them, but to free them. The climax of the battle came when the humans disabled the central command station controlling the Empire's defenses. Imperial officers panicked. Soldiers lost coordination. Entire fleets withdrew in confusion. Fleet Commander Valen realized that the Empire was no longer fighting for victory. It was fighting for survival. And survival was no longer guaranteed. He turned to his aide Rilkar and said quietly, "We underestimated them. We always underestimated them. Run, if we can still." But the Empire had nowhere to run. The humans controlled the space lanes. They had cut off retreats. Every move the Empire tried to make was anticipated, countered, and defeated. Finally, the Emperor made a decision. He had never been forced to negotiate, never been forced to consider mercy. But humanity had changed the rules. He sent a message to Earth. Humans, you have proven yourselves. We seek terms, we offer peace. On Earth, Admiral Cade read the message. She looked at Captain Ward and the Council. This is what we expected, she said. They are offering peace because they are afraid. But we will accept terms that guarantee freedom, not just for us, but for all who suffer under the Empire. The humans negotiated with precision. They demanded recognition, freedom for colonies, and release of oppressed species. The Empire had no choice. Humanity had shown it could not be conquered, could not be threatened, and could not be controlled. Across the galaxy, alien observers whispered to each other. The humans had done what no one else could. They had forced the mightiest empire in history to respect them. Salthor, the gray-skinned observer, spoke quietly. They are not like the others. They do not surrender, they do not fear, and they do not stop. The galaxy has changed forever. His companion added, if anyone ever faces humans in war, there is only one choice: run. But the humans would not allow fear to define them. They had survived, they had fought, and now they had earned their place in the stars. Captain Elias Ward walked through the liberated sectors, seeing alien civilians returning to their homes. He looked at his soldiers, tired but triumphant, and spoke quietly. You see what happens when courage meets unity? The Empire believed nothing could stop it. But we showed them that even the strongest can fall. And we will never stop fighting for freedom, for ourselves and for others. Admiral Cade stood nearby, watching the stars. The galaxy has learned a lesson today. Humans are not a species to underestimate. They will shape the future of every world they touch. Ward smiled grimly. And let the Empire remember it. If they ever try to rise again, we will be ready. The Emperor, forced to retreat, considered his centuries of conquest. He had ruled countless worlds, crushed every rebellion, and believed nothing could threaten him. Yet the humans had done what no other species had ever done. They had made him reconsider, made him cautious, made him respect the power of a species that refused to bow. The galaxy would remember this day. Humans had proven themselves resilient, intelligent, courageous, and unstoppable. They had fought not for glory, not for conquest, but for survival, and in doing so, had changed the course of galactic history forever. In the quiet of space far from Earth, alien observers recorded their final report. Humans are unlike any other. They fight with heart, with mind, and with will. They do not surrender. They do not flee. They do not break. They will not be defeated. If you face them, run, for they will not. And back on Earth, humanity celebrated not just for survival, but for victory, for freedom, and for their place among the stars. The humans had not only won the war, they had earned a warning for the galaxy. Never underestimate what they were capable of.